Hello and welcome to our channel, Easy English Conversations. Today, we are going to talk about how basic English rebuilds identity.
So picture a really highly accomplished, brilliant adult. Let's say a neurosurgeon or like a CEO who regularly negotiates these multi-million-dollar mergers.
Right. Someone who is totally articulate, persuasive, completely in control of their environment.
Exactly. Now take that exact same person and drop them into a foreign country where they don't speak a word of the language. Suddenly that brilliant adult is, pointing at a pastry in a bakery, sweating, feeling entirely helpless.
Yeah.
You're communicating with the nuance of a toddler.
Oh, yeah. The regression is immediate.
It really is. It has to be one of the most jarring cognitive dissonances a human being can experience.
Well, because when you strip away a person's fluency, you basically strip away their primary tool for projecting their identity. I mean, that CEO goes from commanding a boardroom to struggling to just articulate, I want coffee.
Right.
It is a massive blow to the ego. And honestly, it highlights just how much of our self-perception is tied up in the foundational mechanics of language.
And that structural vulnerability is exactly what we are dissecting today. So welcome to this deep dive. We are looking at a really fascinating stack of sources today.
We really are. We've got grammar references from the British Council, vocabulary guides from Langoo, reading exercises from Reading Eggs, English with Amelia, English Evolution, Mr. P, a whole stack.
Yeah, but to be clear, we are not looking at these sources to learn basic English ourselves. Instead, we are looking backward at the architecture of the language. Our mission today is to extract the ultimate beginner's toolkit for human connection.
Right, to understand the mechanics of how we build an identity from scratch using totally new words.
Exactly. The focus is going to be on how you introduce yourself, how you describe your family and friends using specific personality traits, and how you confidently talk about daily routines and permanent states using the present simple tense.
Because, when you deconstruct these basics, you realize they aren't just arbitrary rules in a textbook to pass a test. They are highly efficient systems designed to quickly establish trust and convey reality. It's about giving you the confidence to share who you are.
So today, we are going to tear down that blueprint. We're going to look at the cognitive architecture of self-introductions, how the specific adjectives we choose actually alter human perception, and this is my favorite part, the hidden psychological layers of the present simple tense.
Yeah, that part is mind-blowing. But I guess to start, when we look at how a beginner rebuilds their linguistic confidence, the sources really emphasize the psychology behind the simple greeting.
Right. Before you can talk about your life, you have to break the ice.
Exactly. The transition from silence to connection relies really heavily on understanding social parameters. Like, our sources immediately draw a line between formal and informal greetings.
Which is essentially a lesson in boundary setting, right?
Totally. You have formal greetings like good morning or nice to meet you, which you'd use in class or at work. And then you have the casual ones, hey, or how's it going for friends?
Right. And from there, the English with Amelia source gives this very rigid 5-step formula for a beginner to introduce themselves.
Oh, the 5 steps.
Yeah. Let me just list them really quick. Step 1, say hello. Step 2, state your name. Step 3, say where you are from.
Simple enough so far.
Right. Then step 4, add one simple detail about yourself, like, I'm an English learner. And finally, step 5, end politely. So the output is basically, hello, my name is Linda. I'm from Canada. I'm an English learner. Nice to meet you.
Which, on the surface, that looks like a robotic script.
It sounds super rigid.
It does, but structurally, it is a masterpiece of cognitive load management.
How so?
Well, it limits the variables. When an adult is learning a new language, their brain is just burning massive amounts of glucose trying to remember vocabulary and translate native thoughts in real time.
Oh, for sure.
So this 5-step formula removes the burden of choice. It literally forces the speaker into the most fundamental, cognitively soothing structure in the English language.
Ah, you mean subject, verb, object.
Exactly, SVO.
Yeah, the basic recipe of English. The English Evolution source highlights this perfectly. You just need the actor, the action, and the target. I being the subject, drink being the verb, water being the object.
SVO is the absolute bedrock.
Linda is from Canada. It's so simple.
Yeah.
As English speakers, our brains are basically hardwired to process information in that specific chronological flow. We expect to know who's doing the thing before we know what the thing is.
Right.
But I have a question about this. Why do beginners so often overcomplicate this basic recipe?
Oh, that's a great question. It's because they usually want to express a highly nuanced thought right out of the gate. They try to inject the complexity of their native thoughts into this new language before the foundation is even poured.
So they try to run before they can walk.
Exactly. They abandon the SVO structure, reach for complex vocabulary they haven't mastered yet, and the entire sentence just collapses.
Wow.
Or, conversely, because they're translating directly from a native language that might have totally different mechanical rules, they make structural omissions.
Like leaving words out.
Yeah, the most common unnatural grammar mistake is dropping the copula of the verb to be.
Oh, right.
They will say, I from Canada, completely missing the actual engine of the sentence.
So they have the subject I and the object Canada, but they forget the am. They just skip it.
Yep. And that specific verb, the verb to be, is arguably the strangest, most critical piece of architecture in the English language.
It basically acts as an equal sign, doesn't it?
That's a perfect way to look at it. I equals hungry. She equals tall. In a lot of global languages, that equals sign is just implied.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you don't actually need a word for it. You just place the subject and the adjective right next to each other. So when an adult learner drops am or is, they aren't just forgetting a word. They are actively fighting against their own native linguistic instincts.
That makes so much sense. And the verb to be is so ancient and fundamental in English that it honestly operates by its own set of rules. Like, it's a total grammatical rebel.
It really is.
Because think about standard English mechanics. Making a sentence negative usually requires a helper word. We don't say, I walk not. We have to say, I do not walk.
Right, you need the do.
Exactly.
Yay.
But the verb to be doesn't need any help at all. It stands completely alone. You just attach the negative directly to it. I am not, she is not.
It carries enough structural weight to support the negative all on its own. And that weight is necessary because the verb to be is the anchor we use to attach descriptive reality to the people in our lives.
Right. Once you establish that equal sign, you have to fill in the variable.
Exactly. And this is where adjectives come into play. Once you've introduced yourself, the conversation naturally shifts to the people you care about.
Which brings us to the language source. It provides this amazing, comprehensive list of over 50 adjectives categorized into positive, negative, and neutral traits.
It's a really strong palette of descriptive words.
It is. We have positive traits like reliable, kind, and hardworking. And those are contrasted with negative ones like stubborn, selfish, and lazy. Plus, you have your neutral physical descriptions, tall, slim, broad-shouldered.
Right. But, simply memorizing a list of adjectives kind of misses the point. The real power lies in how specific adjectives actually manipulate cognitive perception.
What do you mean by that?
Well, think about broad, generic adjectives like good or bad. They force the listener's brain to do a lot of interpretive work.
Okay, yeah.
If you tell me someone is bad, my brain has to guess what kind of bad. Are they malicious? Are they incompetent? Are they just annoying? But precision reduces that cognitive friction. Choosing the right adjectives makes your English sound so much more natural and precise.
That's such a good point. So I want to challenge you, the listener, to combine these adjectives to create a 3D picture of a family member. The Lingu text offers a great example of this. Mark can be impatient and stubborn, but he's also hardworking.
I love that sentence. It does incredible heavy lifting.
It really does, because instead of just saying Mark is bad but sometimes good, you get this vivid picture. It acknowledges human complexity. It shows that two opposing traits can exist in the exact same person.
And this is really where we see the transition from merely speaking English to actually communicating in it.
Yeah.
Or even looking at a simpler example from one of the reading exercises, just saying, Hadil is kind. Even that is precise enough to tell a vivid story without needing a massive vocabulary.
Exactly. You can combine a neutral physical descriptor like broad-shouldered with a layered personality description like stubborn but reliable. And boom, you've rendered a high-definition image of a human being.
It proves you don't need a huge dictionary to be vivid. You just need to understand the structural power of contrast and precision.
But, static descriptions only give us a two-dimensional portrait. A person isn't just what they are, they're what they do.
Right.
So to map out how these, broad-shouldered, stubborn people actually interact with the world, we have to move away from the verb to be. We have to explore the mechanics of actions.
Which means we are shifting from the architecture of identity to the rhythm of life. We have to look at the present simple tense.
Yes, the present simple is the primary tool we use to describe our daily routines.
And we all have them.
We do. Looking at the Mr. P vocabulary lesson in the sources, the daily routine maps out a very standard, predictable flow. Wake up at 7, brush my teeth, take a shower, get dressed.
Have breakfast with the family, go to work, have lunch, clean the house, go to bed.
Right, the actions themselves are completely universal. But the English mechanics required to actually express them introduce a fascinating quirk that trips up almost every single beginner.
Oh, I know exactly what you're going to say. The golden rule of the present simple.
Yep.
The dreaded third-person singular S.
It causes so much trouble.
It really does, because for the pronouns I, you, we, they, the verb sits comfortably in its base form. I work, they work.
Super easy.
Right, but the moment the subject shifts to a single third party talking about a family member like he, she, or it, the verb morphs, you absolutely must add that S, she works. He brushes his teeth.
And the cognitive friction here is immense, because in English, we are trained from day one to associate the letter S at the end of a word with plurality.
Exactly. One cat, two cats.
Right, the S means more than one. But suddenly when we look at verbs, the S means the exact opposite. It signals a single third party. We add an S to the verb specifically because the subject is singular. He walks.
It requires the speaker to literally override a deeply ingrained phonetic habit.
Yeah.
But once that mechanical rule becomes muscle memory, it applies universally, regardless of the context.
And we actually see that universality in one of the reading exercises from the sources. It describes a daily routine on a farm, which is, entirely different from the office worker's routine we just talked about.
Oh, right. The one about waking up before the sun.
Yeah. Waking up before the sun, milking the cow, feeding the pigs, collecting chicken eggs. The vocabulary is totally agricultural, but the structural engine is identical to the office worker.
He milks the cow, she feeds the pigs.
Exactly. The present simple tense doesn't care if you are a CEO or a farmer. The grammar process is routine the exact same way.
That's a great point. And, when those routines need to be questioned or negated, the English language deploys a really brilliant mechanical workaround.
Oh, this is the helper verbs, right?
Yes, because earlier we noted that the verb to be was a rebel. It could handle the word not all by itself.
Right. I am not.
But action verbs like milk, feed, play, or walk, they are not rebels. They are structurally fragile. Yeah, if you try to attach a negative directly to them or flip them around to form a question, the sentence breaks.
Oh, I see. You can't just say, plays Jack football, or he lives not in Manchester.
Exactly. The verb play and the verb live simply can't bear that structural load. So English introduces auxiliary verbs to support them.
The helpers, do and does.
Yes. They function almost exactly like mathematical brackets in an algebra equation.
Oh, I love that analogy.
Thanks. Yeah, they isolate the complex operation so the core number, or in this case, the core verb, remains untouched.
Let's break that down because that is such a good way to look at it. If I want to ask a question about someone's routine, I bring in does. Like, does Jack play football?
Exactly.
The auxiliary verb does handles all the heavy lifting. It indicates the tense, it indicates the third-person singular subject, and it flags the entire sentence as a question.
And because does handles all that grammatical math, the main verb play gets to just sit there in its purest, simplest base form.
It doesn't need the dreaded S because does already took care of it.
Precisely. And the same mechanism applies to the negative. Think about the sentence, he doesn't live in Manchester.
Okay.
The auxiliary does absorbs the negative not, allowing the verb live to remain completely unburdened. It is an incredibly elegant system once you understand the engineering behind it. Do and does aren't just extra words to memorize. They are load-bearing pillars that protect the main verb.
Wow. It really changes how you look at a simple sentence. You realize there is this invisible scaffolding holding up literally every everyday conversation.
There really is.
But, okay, our sources, specifically the grammar reference from the British Council, introduce a concept about the present simple that I think warrants some serious scrutiny.
Oh, which part?
Well, the text states that the present simple is used for routines, which we covered, but also for permanent states.
Right.
And looking at how we actually live our lives, the word permanent seems entirely out of place here.
Yes. It definitely raises a red flag for a lot of learners.
Right. I want to push back on this. The book uses the example, Mike works at a hotel, to illustrate a permanent state. But in reality, nothing about Mike working at a hotel is truly permanent.
That's very true.
The hotel could close tomorrow. Mike could quit and decide to become a painter. Describing a job or a living situation as a permanent state feels like a linguistic illusion. So
Well,
what is the grammar actually trying to achieve here?
This is perhaps the most profound realization a language learner can have. The British Council source breaks this down brilliantly, though the implications honestly go far beyond just grammar.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
In English, the concept of permanence in tense does not refer to a temporal reality. It does not mean this will literally last forever.
It doesn't.
No, it refers to a psychological state.
A psychological state. Wait, so the grammar isn't describing the universe, it's describing the speaker's mind.
Exactly. When a grammar book says a state is permanent, it means the speaker, at this exact moment in time, does not anticipate an end to it. The speaker views the situation as their established baseline reality.
Okay, let's test that against the present continuous tense.
Sure. Consider two different people who moved to London 10 years ago.
Okay.
The first person says, I live in London. That is the present simple. By choosing that specific tense, they are doing much more than just stating their address. They are projecting an identity. They view themselves as a Londoner. The state is psychologically permanent to them.
I see. But if the second person says, I am living in London, using the present continuous.
The entire psychological framing shifts. The present continuous implies a temporary, ongoing action.
Wow.
Even if that second person has been in London for the exact same 10 years, using am living signals a psychological detachment. It implies that they consider this situation to be a phase. They eventually expect to leave. Their true, permanent home exists somewhere else, even if it's only in their mind.
That completely redefined how we hear people speak. When you say Mike works at a hotel, using the present simple, you are expressing that Mike is rooted in that reality. He's an established hotel employee. The grammar you select subtly reveals your psychological relationship to the action.
Exactly. It dictates whether you are rooted in your environment or just passing through.
Sure.
It proves that we are constantly broadcasting our internal worldview through our grammatical choices, usually without even realizing it.
That is just incredible. Which kind of brings us to the psychological endgame of mastering all these basics. The Reading Egg source on phonics introduces a concept called self-efficacy.
Right, self-efficacy.
Yeah, it's defined as a learner's belief in their own capacity to execute behaviors necessary to produce specific performance attainments, which is a very academic way of saying. It's the belief that you can actually pull off what you were trying to do.
And in language acquisition, self-efficacy is basically the engine of progression. The research clearly indicates that believing in your own capability is more tightly linked to ultimate achievement than raw intelligence or even external motivation.
Which is exactly why the architectural blueprint we've discussed today is so vital. If a learner can successfully navigate the SCO structure, if they can wield the verb to be without a helper word,
If they can deploy precise adjectives and use mathematical brackets like do and does to ask questions.
right, they aren't just passing a grammar quiz, they are building a scaffolding of micro-successes.
Every single time that adult learner, the CEO from the bakery who felt like a toddler, successfully introduces themselves and accurately describes their life using the present simple, their self-efficacy increases.
The cognitive dissonance fades away.
Exactly. They begin to reclaim their identity in this new linguistic framework.
They realize the tools are actually reliable. The five-step introduction breaks the ice. The SVO structure ensures their thought lands clearly.
The precise adjectives paint the 3D picture.
And the tenses establish the psychological reality. The toolkit works.
It absolutely does. It transforms the murky, overwhelming waters of a new language into a fully navigable system.
Well, we've covered the foundational architecture today, from the rigid but necessary constraints of a beginner's introduction to the profound psychological revelations hidden in the present simple tense. You now have a framework for understanding exactly how English constructs reality from the ground up.
It really gives you a new appreciation for the basics.
It certainly does. But I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over, one that applies whether you are learning a new language or have spoken English your entire life.
Oh, I like this.
Think about the psychological power of the present simple tense we just discussed. When you describe your own life to others, your job, your habits, the city you live in, pay close attention to the tenses you default to. Are you using the present simple because you truly view those things as your permanent state? How does the grammar you unconsciously choose reveal how you actually feel about your own identity? Are you rooted in your reality, or does your language suggest you are psychologically just passing through?
That is a fascinating way to listen to yourself speak.
It really makes you think. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the blueprint of human connection. Keep questioning the architecture around you, keep analyzing the rules, and we will see you next time.